Fargo isn't just a dark comedy. It's the Coen Brothers Oscar-winning crime masterpiece that lied about being a true story while becoming one of the most influential films of the 90s. From a real murder that inspired the wood chipper scene and the warmest winter ever sabotaging production to a desperate audition fight and a film named Fargo that never actually shot in Fargo, these 10 facts reveal the chaos behind the Coens' deceptive classic. Fact number 1, the true story was a complete lie. The opening card of Fargo makes a bold claim: this is a true story. The events depicted in this film took place in Minnesota in 1987. But the real truth is, none of it was true. The Coens invented the entire plot, fabricated the characters, and constructed a completely fictional narrative. They maintained this convincing lie for years, and even the cast and crew believed they were filming a real crime story. It took the Coens 3 weeks before they revealed the truth. Even after the film's release, Joel and Ethan refused to break character in interviews, insisting the story was real while offering deliberately vague details about their sources. Maybe you wonder, why the lie? The Coens wanted viewers to approach the film differently, to believe that ordinary Midwestern people were capable of extraordinary violence. The fabricated true story claim made everything feel more unsettling, more possible. And it worked perfectly until critics started digging for the actual case files that never existed. But buried in all those lies was one kernel of truth. The Coens had borrowed a single gruesome detail from a real crime, and that detail would become the film's most infamous scene. Fact number 2, the wood chipper scene came from a real murder. In 1986, Connecticut police made a gruesome discovery. A flight attendant had been murdered by her husband, an airline pilot who bludgeoned her to death before renting a wood chipper to dispose of her body. The case made national headlines. Investigators recovered bone fragments, tissue, and teeth from the chipper and a nearby riverbank. He became the first person in Connecticut convicted of murder without a body being found. The Coens were following this case when they wrote Fargo. The wood chipper detail was too horrific and too perfectly absurd not to use. They transplanted it from Connecticut to Minnesota, from a domestic murder to a kidnapping gone wrong, but kept the essential horror intact. So when the character gets fed into that chipper in the film's most infamous scene, you're watching something rooted in real violence. Fact number 3, no scenes were shot in Fargo, 185 words. Although Fargo is built on fabricated facts, the Coens decided to make the deception even worse. Despite its name, not a single frame of the film was shot in Fargo, North Dakota. The opening bar scene where the main character meets the kidnappers is set in Fargo, but it was filmed elsewhere. The majority of shooting took place around Minneapolis and the Twin Cities suburbs, with additional locations in Brainerd and other Minnesota towns. The city that gave the film its name never saw the production crew. The Coens actually debated this during pre-production. Their original consideration was calling the film Brainerd after the small Minnesota town where much of the action takes place. They went back and forth between the two options. In the end, Joel and Ethan picked Fargo for the simplest reason imaginable. They just liked how it sounded better. No deeper meaning, no metaphorical significance, just aesthetics. The name had a nice ring to it, and that was enough. Brainerd didn't take this well. After the film's release, the town reportedly considered legal action over their portrayal, upset about being depicted as a backwater full of criminals and dim-witted locals. The Coens had dodged that bullet by choosing Fargo for the title instead. Fact number 4, Mother Nature sabotaged the Coens' plan. The Coens picked Minnesota for a reason. The state is infamous for its punishing winters. Brutal cold, relentless snowfall, the kind of frozen landscape that makes people question why anyone lives there. It was the perfect setting for their crime thriller, where the icy desolation would become as much a character as the people. But Mother Nature had other plans. When the crew arrived for production in winter 1995, Minnesota delivered its warmest winter on record with virtually no snow. Just 2 years earlier, nearby towns had recorded wind chills of -70 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, unseasonably mild temperatures and brown grass everywhere. The production became a desperate chase. Crews traveled farther and farther north, hunting for any remaining snow. They trucked in fake snow by the truckload. They deployed industrial snowmaking machines. They rescheduled shoots constantly, waiting for cold fronts that never arrived. Audiences watching Fargo see a world buried in snow and assume Minnesota simply cooperated. The reality? The crew had to manufacture winter from scratch, fighting against nature at every turn. Just another deception orchestrated by the Coens. Fact number 5. An actor flew across the country to demand the role. The actor who would eventually play Jerry Lundegaard, William H. Macy, had already auditioned twice for the role. He read for the part, felt the character in his bones, and knew he could deliver something special, but he was never called back. Despite the chemistry, the Coens wanted someone else entirely, a completely different energy, a different approach to the character's pathetic desperation. Macy wasn't accepting that answer. He bought a plane ticket to New York, tracked down where Joel and Ethan were working, and confronted them directly. His pitch was simple and audacious. Casting anyone else would screw up the whole movie. He'd prepared for this role. He understood Jerry's nervous energy, his constant scrambling, his ability to make every situation worse. The Coens, faced with this level of commitment and borderline desperation, which, ironically, matched Jerry's character exactly, relented. Macy got the role and earned an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Now it's impossible to imagine anyone else playing that sweaty, stammering car salesman who destroys his own life, one panicked decision at a time. Fact number 6. A protagonist worth waiting for. Marge Gunderson, played by Frances McDormand, is one of cinema's most unlikely detectives. A small-town police chief, 7 months pregnant, who waddles through crime scenes eating lunch and chatting about the weather. She's unfailingly polite, completely unthreatening, and absolutely brilliant at her job. But here's the thing. In most films, you'd meet this protagonist in the first 10 minutes. Fargo makes you wait a third of the runtime. For 33 minutes, the movie follows the kidnapping scheme, the bumbling criminals, the escalating violence. Then Marge arrives at a triple homicide, and the entire film shifts. But it was worth the wait. McDormand fought to keep the character authentic, resisting every attempt to glamorize her. She insisted on minimal makeup and practical winter clothing that actual cops would wear. No Hollywood polish, no vanity lighting. And she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for this role, despite what feels like supporting-level screen time. The character subverted every expectation of what a movie detective should be. You'd expect a steely authority figure, someone intimidating, weathered, traditionally masculine. Instead, audiences got a pregnant Minnesotan in a parka who proved that kindness and competence aren't mutually exclusive. Fact number 7. The pregnancy that fooled everyone. For years after the film's release, fans assumed Frances McDormand had been pregnant during filming. The performance felt that authentic. The waddle, the way she carried herself, the natural weight distribution. But the pregnancy was entirely prosthetic, and the Coens wanted it to feel completely real. The costume designers created a custom belly weighted with birdseed to match the exact heft of a 7-month pregnancy. This wasn't just about visual accuracy, The weight forced McDormand to move differently. Her waddle wasn't acting, it was physics. The birdseed shifted naturally as she walked, creating realistic movement. She didn't need to think about how a pregnant woman carries herself. The prosthetic did that work automatically. McDormand's character became iconic partly because of her co-stars, and the Coens had built those roles from scratch with specific actors in mind. Fact number 8. The kidnappers were cast before they were written. The two kidnappers in Fargo are as essential to the film as Marge herself. Carl Showalter is a nervous wreck, constantly talking, constantly complaining, panicking at every turn. Geir Grimsrud is his terrifying opposite, a stone wall who barely speaks, responds with grunts, and erupts into sudden, brutal violence. Their dynamic drives half the movie, and fans still quote their scenes decades later. The diner breakfast, the pancakes argument, Carl's motormouth rants hitting Geir's dead silence. Here's what makes them work. The Coen brothers wrote these roles with Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare already in mind. They designed the characters specifically around what each actor does best. Buscemi brought his trademark anxious energy, that voice that sounds perpetually one sentence away from a breakdown. Stormare, a Swedish actor, contributed an unsettling blankness that made Geir terrifying without ever needing to raise his voice. The chemistry wasn't accidental, it was architected. Buscemi's motormouth crashing into Stormare's stone wall created comic tension that only works because the Coens built it specifically for them. Without these two, Fargo would be a different film entirely. Could other actors have played these roles? Maybe, but it's impossible to imagine. Fact number 9. Props were rented on personal credit cards. Fargo cost just $7 million to make, a modest budget even by 1996 standards. That financial constraint meant the Coens and their team couldn't simply purchase everything they needed. Instead, they got scrappy. Critical props, including the tan sedan that the main character drives, and even the infamous wood chipper itself, were rental secured using personal credit cards. The Coens, producers, and crew members put their own credit on the line to get the equipment necessary for shooting. It was low-budget independent filmmaking at its most precarious, with everyone's personal finances temporarily entangled in the production. That $7 million investment paid off spectacularly. Fargo earned over $60 million at the worldwide box office, nearly a 9x return. It won 2 Academy Awards and was nominated for Best Picture. Not bad for a film made on credit cards and borrowed equipment, proving that tight budgets can force creativity rather than compromise it. Fact number 10. A woman died believing the money was real. In Fargo, the kidnapper Carl buries a briefcase full of ransom money in the snow beside a highway fence. He marks the spot, planning to return later, but he never does. He ends up in a wood chipper and the money stays buried. The film ends with that briefcase still out there, somewhere in the frozen Minnesota landscape, undiscovered. 5 years later, a Japanese woman named Takako Konishi, believing in the tale of Fargo, traveled from Tokyo to Minnesota to search for the urban legend's buried briefcase, but was found dead in a frozen field near Detroit Lakes, roughly 60 miles from where the fictional money gets buried in the film. Many people believe she died in the process of searching. Although investigations never definitively proved it, many believed she died looking for the money. Whether the money hunt was truly what killed her or not, Konishi's death became part of Fargo's legacy, proof that the Coens had blurred the line between fiction and reality so completely that their fictional tale had real-world consequences. From a true story that was completely fake to a wood chipper inspired by a real murder to a Japanese woman who died believing the buried money was real, Fargo blurred the line between fiction and reality so effectively it became dangerous. Which fact surprised you the most? And if you stuck to the end of this video, then you're definitely interested in the stranger-than-fiction stories behind classic films. So hit subscribe for more hidden secrets from the movies you thought you knew.